Call to order County Commission for January 22nd, 2019. Mr. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Katie Huffaker.
Here.
Todd Kesterson.
Here.
Steve Douglas.
Here.
Jimmy Dale Patterson.
Here.
Randy Baxley.
Here.
Paul Lowe.
Here.
Michael Fagan.
Here.
Greg Bird.
Here.
Edna Langley.
Here.
Tim Seals.
Here.
Sammy Solomon.
Here.
Robert Blevins. Gene Esslinger.
Here.
Randy Bales.
Here.
John Neal Scarlett.
Here.
Ronnie Coleman.
Here.
Terry Dockery.
Here.
Jimmy Carmichael.
Here.
AJ Walker.
Here.
Marcus Reed.
Here.
Heidi Thomas.
Here.
20 to 0. 20 to 1.
At this time, we'll have our prayer by our chaplain and our Pledge of Allegiance. I'll ask Sammy Solomon to fill these in our pledge tonight.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, once again we are thankful to come to you and serve in the greatest county in the state of Tennessee. Father, we ask that you be with each of us. Help us to do our due diligence, vote according to our own conscience, and bring forth your will in our county. Thank you, Lord, for your many blessings on us. And it is in Christ's holy name we make this prayer. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No public hearing is scheduled at this time. A motion to approve the minutes would be in order. Agenda, I'm sorry. Mr. Fagan, approval of the agenda. Second? Second, Mr. Solomon. Any amendments, any changes? All in favor of approving the agenda as presented, say aye. Aye. Agenda is approved, no opposition. Next item is the approval of the minutes from our previous meetings. A motion to approve would be in order. Mr. Carmichael, Mr. Solomon. Any amendments or corrections to the minutes? Seeing or hearing any, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved as presented. At this time, we're at the section where we have appearance of citizens. Our first one is Robert Lynn Hanna. If you would come to the microphone, state your name and address, what district you're in, and limit your comments to 3 minutes, sir.
My name's Robert Hanna. I'm not for sure exactly about the district, but I'm in Talbot, Tennessee. And just had a curious question or two, mainly a comment, about the New Market Volunteer Fire Department. And they used to have a third-party billing company out of California. And I was just curious, why use a third-party billing company when, county taxes and stuff go towards that, but also why not use a company out of the county and keep county dollars here instead of sending part of them to California? That was just all I had.
Thanks, sir. Normally, County Commission will address you during the work session, but during a regular business meeting, they traditionally do not respond to that.
Okay.
Have you checked with the fire department?
Yeah, a couple times. Insurance company stuff out.
If you'll come back to our next work session, the County Commission can correspond with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan Frederick, Breezy Point Lane.
I'm Jan Frederick. I'm the volunteer treasurer of CARE.
You give us your address too, please.
1792 Breezy Point Lane, Dandridge, Tennessee.
Thank you.
You're welcome. At the budget session last week, Commissioner Scarlett implied that CARE had not been in compliance with the county's budget procedures, and that is not accurate. We provided the requested information to our Animal Control Oversight Board Chairman, Commissioner Randy Bales. He in turn emailed it to the Budget Committee, including Chairman John Scarlett. We have been chastised falsely in public for wrongs that we did not commit. CARE has provided the county with every financial request, although it has been somewhat of a challenge. I've met and emailed Langdon Potts and have provided him with what I believe to be the required information. I also emailed both Mr. Potts and Commissioner Bales, requesting them to provide me the information and format they require going forward. I have received a response from Commissioner Bales, and I await a reply from Langdon Potts. The MA asks for specific information but does not provide a format or a format template. We provided all the information and have made every effort to ensure compliance but have been met with indifference. This is a frustrating process, and communication of the specific needs could be better outlined in the MA. I'm requesting that both the Commission and Langdon Potts provide to CARE in writing exactly what information and forward and format is required, and I will be happy to comply. This process has been far short of a professional cooperative team effort. I would like to develop a professional, cordial, and mutually respectful working relationship with the Commission, and I hope the Commission wants the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Hogan Spencer.
Spencer Hogan, 1792 Breezy Point, District 8. Last year, the county was in crisis with their shelter. CARE was quickly formed, organized, and stepped up to help the county. The citizens, not only for the county, but for the citizens and for most importantly, the welfare of the animal. Last week, the President requested the rest of the funds CARE had asked for at the beginning of the fiscal year. She was not asking for anything in addition to what CARE already asked for over 6 months ago, but would be needed to manage and operate the shelter going forward. To say that she was treated rudely, disrespectfully, and is an understatement, and suggest that CARE had not complied with the request from the county in regards to the finances is an untrue statement. Now, I'd like to talk about just what the citizens of this county do for CARE. Last year, since the formation and the takeover of the shelter and minimum wage, there was close to $40,000 spent in volunteer hours that are recorded. If you take the animals themselves, the amount of food they eat, nearly all of that food is donated by the citizens of this county for your shelter. If you take laundry detergent, cleaning supplies, washers, dryers, the people to run those, this is almost all supplied by citizens of your county. So if the citizens of this county can support the facility, they do it for two reasons. They do it because of the animals, and they do it because of the job that CARE is doing operating the county shelter. Otherwise, these funds and these gifts would not be made. Thank you.
Thank you. Honey Miller.
My name is Honey Miller, District 8, and I'm the president of CARE. A year ago, CARE stepped up to help this county run its shelter. I want to remind you, the shelter belongs to the county. It does not belong to CARE. It's not CARE's place to provide the funds necessary to operate the animal shelter. It is the county's responsibility to supply the funding for the shelter. Our original projected budget for this fiscal year was $147,000. We asked the county for $120,000 of that. We were awarded $100,000. Commissioner Solomon, you said that I stood up and said $100,000 was adequate. I never said that. I was told to do the best we could with $100,000 and come back and ask for $20,000 when the funds ran out, and I'm only following your procedure laid out for me. Even with the $20,000, if the $20,000 is awarded, we still have to take a very conservative effort. That can't be 3 minutes.
It's not.
Okay. So $20,000, we'll still have to take a very conservative effort in order to stretch those funds to the end of the year. I'm not asking for any more than what I originally asked for at the beginning of the fiscal year. And our budget was based on half of the animals that we're housing at this point in time. Commissioner Douglas, you said that it would set a precedence if you awarded those $20,000 in funds. That won't set a precedence. We are the only nonprofit that is running a county-owned entity. This is the county's shelter, not CARE's shelter. And lastly, Commissioner Scarlett, CARE has always been 100% transparent with all of the money that the county has provided for us and has been willing to comply with any request. We have had difficulties in communications. Answering our emails sometimes took 3 weeks. It's been frustrating at best. In good gesture, CARE has even taken funds that they have raised for CARE's needs and given it towards the shelter. The $10,000 will not carry us to the end of this fiscal year. And again, it is the county's responsibility to run the county's owned shelter. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Bobick.
Hello, Matthew Bobick, 2736 Windy Cove Way in Sevierville. I spoke last week about the ongoing EMS response time issue that we have over on the south side of the lake. And last week I addressed the problem. This week I want to spend a little time addressing a possible solution. So last year, I believe it was last June, Director Phillips laid out a couple options on how to potentially solve the problem that we're dealing with, the long ambulance wait times. And the root of that issue is the Chestnut Hill ambulance continually being moved into Dandridge on a regular basis based on current protocol. One of the solutions that Director Phillips he didn't recommend, but he put out there as an option was to allocate $500,000 toward the full-time employment of an additional ambulance crew to be placed out either in Chestnut Hill or I mean, ideally for us in Parrott's Chapel. And that would be the ideal thing for us, to have an ambulance in Parrott's Chapel or next best thing, a second one in Chestnut Hill. But I'm going to recommend something different. I'm going to recommend that the Commission allocate $500,000 toward an additional ambulance crew to be located centrally in the county. It'll allow a couple of things to happen. Number one, there will be another ambulance centrally located which could benefit anybody in the entire county. But it will also have the additional effect of allowing Director Phillips to change the protocol so that the Chestnut Hill ambulance can stay in station more frequently. We're not asking to be treated specially. We just want to know that when we call 911, that unless there's some weird extenuating circumstance, there's a 20-car pileup on 40 and all the ambulances they're all out of station, that we're going to have an ambulance close by. We've had people wait, as I've said, over 45 minutes for an ambulance to arrive. Regina Gayhart last year waited over 45 minutes after being stung by a bee, thinking that she was going to die, thinking that she was going to suffocate, waiting and waiting and waiting for an ambulance to come. Bud Holt's wife, Susie, she's a little thing. He's had 4 heart attacks. The last 3, she's loaded him in the car herself to get him to the hospital because the first time they waited almost an hour for the ambulance to arrive. My not next door neighbor, but what was his name? Sam Hetrick. He watched his neighbor die, Sam Hetrick die, waiting for 45 plus minutes for an ambulance to arrive several years ago. It's a real issue. We just want to know that we're safe, and to know that hopefully the recognition that people in your county are scared to call 911 because they're not sure if an ambulance is going to get there in time. I hope you treat that as a real significant issue that you want to find a solution to. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Steve McSmith.
Good evening. Steve McSmith, 3766 Island View Road, Sevierville, Tennessee, Parrott's Chapel community in District 8. I simply want to take a moment to encourage the Commission to seriously consider former Commissioner David Seal's request, encouragement last week at the workshop for creating a new county position for essentially what would be a grant seeker to find grants, which is in essence finding money to help support a myriad of programs, all things connected to the county, all things that require dollars to operate. The biggest Achilles heel this county has is funding. The biggest Achilles heel is that money's required to provide to the citizens. that is a pathway to finding additional monies for pretty much anything you can think of. This country runs on grants. There's money galore, but you have to seek it out, find ways to acquire it, and that would be a supreme pathway. So please take that consideration very seriously. And I, as a citizen, would encourage you to help us help ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, all citizens, for your comments. Next item on the agenda is approval of notaries and bonds. There's a handout for you. The motion to approve these notaries and bonds would be in order. Mr. Scarlett.
Second.
And Mr. Coleman. Second. Any discussion, challenges? All in favor of approving these bonds and notaries say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries without opposition. Election of committees, boards, and commission. You have Industrial Development Board terms reappointments for Jeff Pugh, Steve Hammer. A new appointment is Chris Myers. Mike Norton to continue an unexpired term, which would be for 1 year. What's the pleasure, Commission?
So moved.
All. Mr. Scarlett, Mr. Blevins, my second. Amendment or discussions?
Mr. Chairman, you have to open the
Open it up for nominations.
floor for nominations.
Any other nominations? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor of this slate of nominees say aye. Aye. Opposed? These are appointed to the appropriate boards. Next item is a report from the county mayor, and let me just say on a happy note that it's happy birthday to Janice Lawrence, who works in the mayor's office, who was former county commission secretary, and today is her birthday, so happy birthday to her. And not to exclude anybody, our January birthdays on county commission is Gene Estlinger and Edna Langley. And since how we don't meet in February, Michael, you're not off the hook, but Michael Fagan will have a birthday in February. I asked John Neal if he would lead us in singing happy birthday, and he has declined.
And I told you that it would be a room-clearing experience.
So other items, mayoral appointments, we'll do them one at a time. EMS board appointment for replacement of Hoagie Snodgrass, who passed away, and that would be Eddie Woods to fulfill her unexpired term.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Baxley, second, Mr. Fagan. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes without opposition. Jefferson Memorial Oversight Board is reappointment of Sue Hoke for a 3-year term. This comes as a mayoral appointment. County Commission approval.
So moved.
Mr. Scarlett, Mr. Coleman. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries without opposition. Public Records Commission, reappointment of genealogist Wayne Roberts, a 4-year term expiring January 2023. Another mayoral appointment for County Commission approval.
So moved.
Have a motion, we have a second. Mr. Kestron, Mr. Reed, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries without opposition. Sanitation Commission appointment Jimmy Henry to continue the unexpired term of Hoagie Snodgrass. Term will expire October 2021.
So moved.
Mr. Carmichael, second by Mr. Dockery. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Mr. Henry's nominated. You have received your handouts and your reports from your from your quarterly report from our last meeting, from our work session. That brings us down to new business. As I brought to you in the work session on the Jefferson County Commission Rules of Procedure and Amendment, I brought that to you in this item A and item B. Item A is you'll see a red line of delete, what is to be deleted from item A, and that's attend all meetings of the board. This is regarding the county attorney. And thus it would read, after, if this is approved, the county attorney shall prepare resolutions for action of the board and respond to questions of the board. This allows any county commissioner, the county mayor, or the chair to ask for the county attorney to be here. Of course, if there's a legal matter before county commission, he will be here. This gives the discretion of, if we don't have a legal need for the attorney, we will not have the attorney here, thus we will not have an attorney fee. So, a motion would be in order to amend.
Make a motion.
Mr. Byrd, second by Mr. Coleman. Discussion. Yes, sir. Mr. Kesterson.
Do you foresee that there'll be some savings in doing this?
I think we already have.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
other discussion. All in favor of this amendment to the rules of procedure say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries without opposition. You have an acceptance of county roads, Mr. Tipton. That should be in your packet. Motion to approve would be in order.
Motion approved.
Mr. Carmichael. Mr. Fagan, second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of this say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries without opposition. Y'all about faster than I am, to be honest with you. Resolution 2019-01. This is submission of a 2019 Community Development Block Grant Program to fund a water system improvement project. This is a project that Newmarket Utility does. We are only the kind of caretaker of the money. The grant comes to the county. As the contractor does it, everybody that's involved in it, the contractor sign off on it, and we simply forward the check. So we do this for Newmarket Utility Water District. So I was just going to kind of let you know what that is. This is not money coming to the county, not money that's going to stay with the county. We're just passing it along to help Newmarket Utility District. No county expenditure involved here.
So moved.
Mr. Scarlett, we have a second.
Second.
Mr. Bales, discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries without opposition. Resolution 2019-02 is to declare a surplus and to authorize Senior Services of Jefferson County to dispose of a copy machine, and it's listed here in your packet.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Kesterson. Mr. Bales, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution passes without opposition. Resolution 2019-04, resolution to declare a surplus and to authorize the Sanitation Department of Jefferson County to dispose of equipment. You'll find those listed in your packet and listed also on your sheet. A motion to approve would be in order.
So moved.
Mr. Seal, Mr. Fagan. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of this resolution say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries without opposition. Resolution 2019-05. It's a resolution to declare a surplus and to authorize Dandridge Memorial Library of Jefferson County to dispose of equipment. You'll find that equipment listed there, and it's also in your packet. I believe it's computers and related IT stuff. Mr. Baxley is a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Jimmy Dale for a second. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries without opposition. We have some county amendments, and I believe the budget chair would like to present these budget amendments. Mr. Scarlett.
Mr. Chairman, General Fund 101, Amendment 5. Biggest things taken in hospital grants, be moving some money around. These mostly affect reserve balance. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Langdon, these are that was money allocated in last year's budget, didn't get spent, we've got to bring it back in.
Yes, sir.
Is there any questions about that? So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Comments from the Budget Committee. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passed without opposition. Next item, Mr. Scarlett.
Highway Fund 131, Amendment 3. Again, it is affecting a reserve balance, $50,000. Reserve to expenditure, purchase asphalt for Mr. Tippett. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion? Comes from the Budget Committee. Hearing none, all in favor of this amendment say aye. Aye. Opposed? Amendment passes. Next item.
Capital Fund 171, Amendment 1. This is allocated from Capital Project Reserve into the right expenditure line items for 1819. The biggest one being the central office, old jail over here where part of you just toured. Dr. Johnston, there's 850,000 comes back in it to be spent and finish up it. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Comes from Budget Committee. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes without opposition.
General Fund 101, Amendment 6. This is a ask. It does affect fund balance, will require a roll call vote, Mr. Chairman. It is for land that were taken. 101. You need to row your boat. Let me shoot the goats. General Fund 101, Amendment 6. This is for Mr. Langdon. We have some land that Jefferson County, nobody bids on. They're taken in for delinquent tax sales. We have to pay the back taxes before we can assume clear title. Is that correct, Mr. Langdon?
That's correct.
We've got in excess of 17,000 now. Mr. Langdon says there are 2 or 3 others coming up. This is to spend up to $20,000 from fund balance. So moved, Mr. Chairman. Does require a roll call vote.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion on this? Mr. Clerk, call the roll.
Katie Huffaker.
Yes.
Todd Kesterson.
Yes.
Steve Douglas.
Yes.
Jimmy Dale Patterson.
Yes.
Randy Baxley.
Yes.
Paul Lowe.
Yes.
Michael Fagan.
Yes.
Greg Bird.
Yes.
Edna Langley.
Yes.
Tim Seals.
Yes.
Sammy Solomon.
Yes.
Robert Blevins.
Yes, sir.
Gene Esslinger.
Yes.
Randy Bales.
Yes.
John Neal Scarlett.
Yes.
Ronnie Coleman.
Yes.
Terry Dockery.
Yes.
Jimmy Carmichael.
Yes.
A.J. Walker.
Yes.
Marcus Reed.
Yes.
Heidi Thomas.
Yes.
General Purpose 141. School. Budget Amendment 6. This is moving some funds around for dual enrollment, also BEP instructional supply and substitute teacher training. Does not affect fund balance. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Discussion. And the previous amendment passed too, by the way. No discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. While we just did a school budget amendment, that reminds me, thank you to Frank, there are members of Jefferson County Youth Leadership class with us tonight. I'd like for you all to stand so we can recognize you all. Thank you so much for being here, and anybody that had their paper signed before this meeting that's not valid, you'll have to get it signed after the meeting. So, next item.
Next item before we get to the other funding, we did approve also, Mr. Chairman, the budget calendar of meetings. It's basically the same thing as it was last year, except for changing the correct dates and verbiage. We will start the budget process on March 25th with the first thing. Mr. Langdon says this is basically what we had last year. We will be asking to change some meetings in June so that we may not have to meet multiple times for the commission. So everybody be aware, anybody needs a copy of, Ms. Janice has a copy of this and can get it to them. All right. Last thing. Budget committee approved a $10,000 motion for CARE, additional funds. Came from budget committee, so moved, Mr. Chairman. It comes from the fund balance. It will require a roll call vote.
Thank you, sir. Discussion. Mr. Reed.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we amend this motion to provide CARE with full $20,000 funding for the remainder of the year.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Reed and a second by Mr. Coleman to amend the motion to make $20,000 instead of 10. Discussion. Ms. Huffaker.
Can I ask how much is in the fund balance? How much do we have? Or approximately?
Just a minute here.
While you're doing that, I saw another hand, unless it's related. Mr. Scarlett.
Mr. Chairman, based on the amendment, there is a new fee structure in place, which I applaud the efforts of CARE to try to straighten the thing up and try to get, and they're doing a tremendous job over there, but they have put in a new fee structure. This new fee structure is going to be a division of general donations and adoption fees. And they're going to put half into CARE and half into the animal shelter from now on. Had this been in place on July 1, the animal shelter would be $26,934.11 better off. If this bears out, it should take in, based on what they've been given, it should take care of the remainder 10. Now, for me, I think that it would be prudent if I understand they need the 10. There's a learning curve on this thing. There's been plenty of sin on this deal. But as we go forward, this new rate structure does not mean that CARE gets all the revenue and the animal shelter takes all the expenses. It is a shared revenue of both of these. And as I say, had it been in place in July 1, the animal shelter would be $26,934 to the good right now. I mean, they would have that much more revenue. So I move to amend.
Well, I've got an amendment on the.
I can amend it.
You're going to amend the amendment?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I move to amend that with the language that says that we give $10,000 now out of the fund balance, and then wait till see what this new rate structure and the division of revenue is before we proceed, because they'll be taken in, they'll have revenue as we go forward coming into this, and we can see when we get into the fourth quarter where that is.
So you're amending to go back to what the original motion is?
No, I'm amending.
The amendment. Okay,
amendment.
all right. Do we have a second to the amendment to the amendment?
I'm going to say it.
Mr. Douglas, discussion. Mr. Coleman.
First of all, I'd like to thank CARE for what they've done. And secondly, the amount of time and monies that they have given out of their own pockets to help the county. And whatever monies that they do receive from private donations or any kind of events they have, I think they're well deserving, and I think that it's very worthwhile that they do get the full $20,000 at this time. And got to remember that county shelter, that shelter is for the county. It's not for any particular person, and they do a tremendous job, and I just want to make that comment.
Let me get with back to Ms. Huffaker's question that the finance director was looking up.
Approximately $846,000.
Mr. Burton.
Yes, I had the opportunity to go over there last week. My daughter wanted to go look at the pups, and I think $20,000 is a Band-Aid. That place is in rough shape. They're overwhelmed. The kids are over there working their hind end off, going full blast, and they're doing the best they can. They have volunteer work, but it still need more. So I don't think 20,000 is bad at all for what they need. I mean, go over there and look at the facilities they have. They need upgrades. So, I mean, they're using, you know, temporary shelters. So we need to do something for them. Thank you.
Mr. Reed.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I spent almost an hour over there on Friday. When I walked through the door, I saw the president of CARE down on the floor taking recycled newspaper that's sent to recycling, cutting it up to put into the cages. I walked through each area back to the emergency part of CARE. I did not see one volunteer or the director of CARE not doing something. They were completely busy. They were busy the whole time I was there, and I couldn't work there myself because of the noise. It's almost unbearable. I thank you for your dedication to this county, and I appreciate your dedication to this county. I know that they started out last year. I was not a commissioner. One of the first things I did is I met the president of CARE and I told her, make sure you document. They have done that. They've done that in good faith. I think it's only right that we as the commission provide them the funds that they're asking for, because this is the county animal shelter. It's not CARE's. If by some miracle we have a lot of extra money, I am sure that they will put it to good use and that they'll help alleviate some of the burden that we as the county are taking. They're already doing it. And I applaud you for that, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Just another positive word, and that is that I feel like they stepped up to bat when this county needed somebody. They need us now.
Thank you. Okay.
Can I ask Honey Miller about the fee structure, is that okay? Can you describe what Commissioner Scarlett was talking about, the fee structure, and tell me what about it, please?
When we did our fiscal year budget for this year, we based it on 100 animals in-house, and so our budget was $147,000 for the entire year. We are running at over 200 animals in-house constantly. So our budget for this year, our expenses for this year is not going to be 147. It's closer between 185 to 200,000 this year. We are supplementing that additional cost through moving some of those undesignated donations and half of the adoption fees over. It still is not enough. Even with the 20,000 and us moving that additional money over, we still have to take a very conservative effort, and we have, like Marcus Reed said, I showed him when I took him through the shelter, we have looked at every way to mitigate and decrease the expenses. We've looked to the community to say, what can we do so that we don't have to buy or purchase certain items that we need. I go to Carson Newman every Friday and I pick up shredded paper. We use that instead of kitty litter. So we are doing everything we possibly can, and it's still not going to be enough. But with the 20,000, we can make a very conservative effort. With all of the volunteer hours that we put in, there's no way we'd be able to make it without that.
So do you know what anticipated gain you will have from this new fee structure?
We moved over 3,300 in December, but December happens to be a really good year, and we're really focused right now on trying to empty the shelter out. As far as we can't house 200 animals in-house all the time. We're literally putting two dogs in cages. We're putting just temporary housing in the hallways. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to focus on emptying, getting animals out of there. So we're running adoption specials. We typically adopt out dogs for 100 and cats for 50. We've been doing that for 10 and 5. So there's no way for me to project, because I mean, seriously, we're running, like I said, we're trying really hard to get animals out, so we're trying to be really creative. It's really difficult for us to project month to month what that income's going to be.
Thank you.
Mr. Bales.
I will say that it's part of this is my fault for not having a vote at the ACOP meeting. Everybody that was in that meeting, and Tim was there also, was in favor of the 20,000 coming to the thing. It was my fault as a chairman for not making that come to a vote. So I apologize for that. But that being said, what Honey's saying is true on the amount of animals that they have is nearly double what they expected to have. Is that fair to say? They did tell me, I think 147 is what they needed, and I told them at that time when me and you were talking, or whoever was there, that I didn't think we would get the 147,000. And then we come and ask for the 125, or I thought it was 125, you said 120. They're just wanting what they asked for at the first of the year on a budget that they made off half the animals that was in-house. And that's where I'm at. And in my opinion, I'm in favor of it. They had a learning curve this year. Yes, there was some paperwork going back and forth between Langdon and them and not getting the correct stuff because of whatever reason. Who cares what reason it was? I'm just asking that we take into consideration the 20,000, and if you've been by there to see what they've done, I don't see how you can say no, but I'm just asking for us to do what we can and at least get the 10,000 to them now. Even if you don't vote for the 20,000 amendment, I'm asking at least for the 10 now. And I feel like they honestly need the 20.
Just, I see, Mr. Lowe, real quickly, we're discussing an amendment to the amendment. And that's to go to amend the amendment to 10,000, and the original amendment was 20,000, and the original motion was 10. So the first item we will be voting on is the amendment.
Did I get the close on mine?
Maybe. I'm still trying to make sure I explain it in a way that you understand that where original motion is 10 is amended, motion and second. Mr. Reed, then an amendment by Mr. Scarlett to change it to 10. Is that correct?
With, to come back and look and what's the fee structure?
That added to it, and it comes from fund balance.
Yes.
Everybody's talking about fund balance. Okay. All right, Mr. Lowe and then Mr. Scarlett, and then we'll vote on one of the amendments. Or the first amendment.
The only question I have is the animals that you take in, is it Jefferson County only, or so
As
it's
far as
no out of county that you know of, I'm sure?
As far as we know, we will not take any out-of-county animals, and we ask for individuals' ID to show that they actually live in county.
Thank you.
Mr. Scarlett.
I just want to remind commissioners that just asking, we have fire departments, we have other nonprofits, we have other things, we have other departments that ask. We have to make a decision, and when you vote on this, you need to understand, we are starting this budget, $850,000 in the hole this next year. If we continue to fund this thing, we're going to be farther in the hole. So you need to really consider, are you thinking you're going to fund this thing at that level or exceed that level from now on? Because if you are, you need to figure out where you're going to get the money, because we're 850 plus thousand in the hole. So if you give this now without looking at the fee structure, then you're not giving it a chance to work.
So we're going to go ahead and take a vote, and we're talking about the amendment that amends it to 10,000 and out fund balance, and to revisit. Is that correct, Mr. Scarlett? Revisit for a possible another 10?
Watch the fee structure, and then we'll come back in the fourth quarter and take a look at it.
Okay. So that's the motion, 10,000 to come back and look in the fourth quarter of the other 10. So all in favor of this amendment say aye.
You got a roll call.
Oh, okay, sorry, because it's fund balance. Roll call.
Katie Huffaker.
No.
Todd Kesterson.
Yes.
Steve Douglas.
Yes.
Jimmy Dale Patterson.
Yes.
Randy Baxley.
Yes.
Paul Lowe.
Yes.
Michael Fagan. Greg Bird.
No.
Edna Langley,
No.
Tim Seals,
No.
Sammy Solomon,
Yes.
Robert Blevins,
No, sir.
Gene Esslinger,
No.
Randy Bales,
No.
John Neal Scarlett,
Yes.
Ronnie Coleman,
No.
Terry Dockery,
No.
Jimmy Carmichael,
No.
A.J. Walker,
No.
Marcus Reed,
No.
Heidi Thomas.
No.
7 to 14, the amendment fails.
Amendment fails, 14-7. Now we're back to the amendment to amend the original motion to 20,000 by Mr. Reed. This time we'll vote on that amendment. Call the roll, Mr. Clerk.
Katie Huffaker,
Yes.
Todd Kesterson,
No.
Steve Douglas,
No.
Jimmy Dale Patterson,
No.
Randy Baxley,
No.
Paul Lowe,
No.
Michael Fagan,
Yes.
Greg Bird,
Yes.
Edna Langley,
Yes.
Tim Seals,
Yes.
Sammy Solomon,
No.
Robert Blevins,
Yes.
Gene Esslinger,
Yes.
Randy Bales,
Yes.
John Neal Scarlett,
No.
Ronnie Coleman,
Yes.
Terry Dockery,
Yes.
Jimmy Carmichael,
No.
A.J. Walker,
Yes.
Marcus Reed,
Yes.
Heidi Thomas.
Yes.
13 to 8.
13-8. The motion is amended to 20,000. Commissioners, we are now voting on the motion as amended to be 20,000 given to care, taken from the fund balance. You call the roll, sir. That was amendment.
Katie Huffaker,
Yes.
Todd Kesterson,
No.
Steve Douglas,
No.
Jimmy Dale Patterson,
No.
Randy Baxley,
Yes.
Paul Lowe,
Yes.
Michael Fagan,
Yes.
Greg Bird,
Yes.
Edna Langley,
Yes.
Tim Seals,
Yes.
Sammy Solomon,
No.
Robert Blevins,
Yes.
Gene Esslinger,
Yes.
Randy Bales,
Yes.
John Neal Scarlett,
No.
Ronnie Coleman,
Yes.
Terry Dockery,
Yes.
Jimmy Carmichael,
Yes.
A.J. Walker,
Yes.
Marcus Reed,
Yes.
Heidi Thomas.
Yes.
16-5, amendment carried.
Motion carries 16-5 as amended. Next item is the Jefferson County Library Board. They submit their own name for a person, and the name that they have submitted is Arthur Bohannon as the countywide representative. That's
Second.
so moved. This is also to finish out the continuing term of Samantha Reed. This term will end in June 2019, so I think you've all right. Motion second and third there, Pop and Sammy. Any discussion? Any other nominations? This has to come as a library recommendation. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? As appointed. Next item, Commissioner Jimmy Carmichael, Resolution 2019-03. It's a resolution to waive the county motor vehicle tax for vehicles receiving exemption under Chapter 923 of the State Act. Motion comes from Mr. Carmichael. We have a second. Ronnie Coleman. Discussion? Okay. All in favor of this resolution 2019-03? Say aye. Aye. Does that have to be a roll call vote? Does that affect? Well, wait a minute, any opposition?
Technically, you need to roll, you need to
Okay.
record it
Okay,
because you've got to have.
2 readings. Go ahead, call the roll. Sorry, wasted your vote there.
Katie Huffaker,
Yes.
Todd Kesterson,
Yes.
Steve Douglas,
Yes.
Jimmy Dale Patterson,
Yes.
Randy Baxley,
Yes.
Paul Lowe,
Yes.
Michael Fagan, Greg Bird,
Yes.
Edna Langley,
Abstain.
Tim Seals,
Yes.
Sammy Solomon,
Abstain.
Robert Blevins,
No.
Gene Esslinger,
No.
Randy Bales,
Yes.
John Neal Scarlett,
Yes.
Ronnie Coleman,
Yes.
Terry Dockery,
Abstain.
Jimmy Carmichael,
Yes.
A.J. Walker,
Yes.
Marcus Reed,
Yes.
Heidi Thomas.
No.
It's gonna be 11, though.
15 to 3. 3 abstentions, it's gotta be 14.
Passes 15 to 3. Commissioners, you will find announcements in your packet of meetings coming up. Mr. Scarlett, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, would you please remind the commissioners, this has to be voted on at the next consecutive meeting.
Which will be March.
By a 2/3 majority for that to pass.
It'll be automatic. So this will not be approved until it's voted on and approved in 2 consecutive meetings. We don't meet in February, and that will be in March. So just keep that in mind. You see announcements in public meetings. I appreciate your time and your service to the county. Having no other items on the agenda, a motion to adjourn would be in order. We're adjourned.